Hello, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of Frankie J. Raw with two W's. Ready, able, willing, and whenever to discuss any topic, anytime. And we got a really good one for you today. I want to first thank everyone that reviewed my last episode and provided feedback. It was a fun one. It wasn't real exciting, but today's is going to be amazing. Here I am, Frankie J. And I have a couple people that are going to help me out today. Graciela is going to stay in the audience because she's busy handling other things. But I also have Deanna from the Trauma or Laughter After Trauma show. She's wonderful. And I thought it would be most appropriate and fitting to have her join me today. She's wonderful on here, and I'm glad that I made friends with her because she is really in the business of healing after trauma. And in this topic, parent alienation, who is it really hurting, is a topic I felt would be so appropriate for her. Hi, Deanna.
Hey, I can't come to camera right this second.
Okay,
But
not a problem. That's
I'll let
fine.
you know.
Yeah, no problem. As I was saying, this topic is very close to my heart because unfortunately, at this very moment, I'm dealing with it once again. My son, who is going to be turning 15 on October 5th, has been, I've been alienated from him since pretty much the day he was born. His mother is struggling with what I call parent alienation syndrome, and it's just been a fight after fight after fight after fight for 13 years, or actually 11 years. And then I volunteered to stop having my visitation because he was starting to notice tension. And with him being autistic, I felt, I got to give him some sort of stable environment. And if that means dad stepping back and allowing him to grow and um, without the drama. I mean, obviously without his father, but I knew he was at least safe. I guess. But most recently, I think it was a month ago, he reached out to me via text, and I never thought I would cry the way I did. It was tears rolling, and it was powerful. But his mother even brought him over, and I'm thinking, wow, maybe there is a God. And she was playing nice for about 15 seconds, and then after 3 visits, the excuses started, and he can't make plans without me. And this is months after her telling me that he's high function and he'll be able to work a job and drive a car. He just can't make plans to go see his father. But I thought it was a really important topic to bring up because it's not just me. I mean, this is an issue worldwide, and it happens way too often, and it's ignored way too often. I'm certain that Deanna is familiar with this syndrome and this phenomenon. So I will, if you're ready, Deanna. What is your experience with this? I'm certain it's not hands on or anything like that, but I'm certain that you have, heard of this or are aware of it and what a issue it is, and who is it really hurting in this case besides me.
Yeah, so I didn't have this struggle in all the struggles that I did have. This was not one of them, I should
Thank
say,
God.
but I am familiar with it. And you know, using first of all, using a kid to manipulate a situation is never a good thing. So the fact that you were able to kind of step back, see that, understand that, and make a decision. And no, I remember talking to you about this at one point,
Yeah.
where you actually made the decision in court, and the judge pretty much commended you
She
for
didn't blame me.
doing right, for doing what you felt like you needed to do for your son. And so that's really the crux of it, is keeping the child's best interest at heart. And it's a shame that there are people. Now I know he has special needs, right? So that's a
Yeah.
different that's another different ball game. But it's a shame that people would use um, use that as an excuse. So you can't say in one side of your mouth that he's ready and he's doing these things, and in the other side of your mouth that he can't do these things. That's not to say he won't have bad days, and there may be times where things don't work out.
Right.
But it is, again, like you said, I don't know that I've ever heard it labeled it as a syndrome necessarily, but I understand that people do, have this tendency, and I think that would be in the realm of narcissism to use those type of things against
Yeah.
someone.
Well, what's really awful about it is, let me first of all welcome Joanne to the panel too, because she's actually my
Hi
life
there.
coach, and she wanted to be part of this because she actually experienced this as a child or a young adult.
Yep.
So
As
welcome,
a
Joanne.
child,
Thank you. But to finish my statement, what's really sad about it most of all is that her parents endorse it from day one. They funded the court, they funded the attorneys, I'll give you an example. My son suffers with a severe peanut allergy and coconut oil, so he carries an EpiPen around with him. And I mean, I'm aware of this condition. Well, when I dropped him off a couple weeks ago, her mother said, he is autistic and he does have an allergy to peanuts and olive oil and carries an EpiPen. And I'm like, no, I forgot. I forgot that. So it's belittling, it's harassment. And when I did a lot of reading on this, a lot of this stuff happens with the help of extended family. They embrace it because they, care about their daughter. And, I had some issues in the past, but my son was never in danger. I assure you that. Even the judge said that. But it's not just her, it's her family. And, it's like 1 against 20 when it comes to numbers. And I'm the odd one out. And it's almost patronizing, when it's constantly told to me he's autistic. Like, I know, I knew something was wrong when he was 2 years old. And, at that point they were telling me it was all in my head. He's a normal 2 year old. And then 2 years later, he was, diagnosed with MS, autism, excuse me. And then they started jumping on the bandwagon of autism awareness and all this other stuff. But it's just one of those things. I think it's a topic that needs to be talked about. Obviously, it's not something that is going to go away overnight in an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It's something that is a problem, and it'll probably last for a long time. Now, Joanne, you said that as a youngster or young adult, this was something that you yourself dealt with, correct?
yes. Parents have a tendency to use their children in a way that is not effective and in a way that hurts the child. I mean, my parents went to court. My dad wanted me to sign certain affidavits, which were lies because he was trying not to pay child support. It was pretty bad. So I then was raised to not like my father. In the end, I was the one that took care of him.
Yeah.
So And it's very hard because it started at the age of 12 to 13 to then when I was an adult. And this is people who are, in my opinion, are insecure. You know, we're living in a very insecure world. And parents have a tendency to enable their children to be cripples because they're afraid their children will leave them. So she's probably afraid that he's going to see you and, leave her.
Yeah.
And it is a way, it's going to exist forever until we really sort of start looking at ourselves. And it's a hard fight. I mean, it's a hard fight.
Yeah.
And it's horrible on the kid. I mean, I think it is different. Mine was, more than, I'm not going to say how long ago. And it was in the day when people did not get divorced. So I will say it was in the 60s. And I'm hoping that we're all a little bit more aware. But obviously, it seems like that we're not.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of not take it, personally,
Yeah.
but it does.
Well,
And it has an effect on the children. And that's who people should be thinking about, not themselves, the child.
well, you know what?
And
What
thank
ends
you
up
for having me.
Well, you're welcome, and thanks for coming on. I appreciate Deanna taking some time out of her day. You, Joanne. We got Deborah Vick in the audience, along with hey, no, Ron, welcome. Graciela is here to support me as well, and I thank everyone here. Jason, nice to see you. But what ends up happening, and what I noticed real quickly in the few times that I just recently visited my son, is he wanted me to buy him stuff right away. He wanted stuff for his trains and this and that and the other thing. I ordered a couple sets of train tracks, had them mailed to his house, and he was made to believe that his grandmother bought him the stuff. And that one stung too. And it's like, I mean, can I have any part of his life? But I think you're right. I think what happened is she noticed he was coming home excited and happy that he was back with daddy and wanting to do a YouTube channel. And as soon as that happened, that's when she was like, nope. She figured he wasn't going to call me, I think, first of all. Second of all, she didn't think after him visiting me after one or two times that he'd be happy to come back. So the timing was just perfect. And, this is one of those things. And what ends up happening is the child will eventually start to, you know, form hatred towards me. Now that I've been back in his life for a second, now I'm back out again. Um, what's that going to do to him? And what is his mother going to do with that? Dan, any thoughts on that?
Yeah,
I
and
do.
you can bring me
Oh,
the
sorry,
camera.
Deanna. Go.
Oh,
Go.
You
I'm
ready to go,
sorry.
Kim?
No, no,
Yeah,
go.
What
I'm sorry. I
happened?
have the grass cutters out here, so for a minute there, I couldn't hear anything, and I didn't want to have that coming through on all of this stuff. Okay. All right, cool. Hey
Hello.
guys. Yeah, so one of my thoughts on this, and I agree, Joanne's probably a little bit more in tune with some of this stuff, but um, you know, one of the things you said was about the people who enabled your ex to do these things. And it's funny because this morning I read a quote that said, sometimes the enablers hurt more than the
Yeah,
person who actually perpetrated.
great
And
point.
it is something that you have to look at because you don't become part of just one person's life. You become part of a unit or group of people that you start understanding that maybe you weren't part of that group or you feel some disconnect because they're enabling something that is clearly not okay. And so sometimes that hurts more because sometimes the person who's doing the thing may be somewhat unaware or blind to what they're doing because they are in it, but the enablers are not in it. They're looking in from the outside
Correct.
and should be able to see a little bit more clearly what's happening and yet still supporting the wrong behavior. And that's not to say that you're not going to stand by your kid if it's her
Right.
parents, let's say, but it's to say, like, I've gone through this with my own son, right? It's to say, hey, what you're doing is not right. Like, I love you unconditionally and I'm going to always be here for you. But this thing right here
Isn't right.
is not the right way to handle it. Now, if you want
Well,
some help in how to handle it, I'm going to help you,
Can
but I'm
I
not going to
add?
help you mishandle it.
Can I
Yes, go
add?
for it.
And pardon, I'm eating lunch, taking vitamins because I'm like, I have to go to
well,
emergency
Debbie
meeting.
Vick actually brought up a good point. She said that sometimes families underestimate the parent and the child, and they do. Like they
Well, yeah, they
underestimate the
do.
intelligence of my child. They want him to be more handicapped than he is.
Absolutely. But Deanna's correct about the enabling, and that the enabler is hurting more than the enabled. And it's their way of somewhat having some kind of control. But the positive is that no matter how much my mother tried to make me hate my dad, didn't work. Because then as I became an adult, thankfully, I mean, probably because I always sought help with therapy and all of that and speaking to people, I began to really, see him who he was. I mean, he wasn't the greatest man on the face of this earth, but I did then end up accepting him, more because I became an adult. But Deanna, you are so right on the
Yeah,
enabling and the enabler. It's
And
uncanny.
yeah, and it's sometimes what's sad about the whole situation really is, look, we have an innate need for both the energies of our parents to be in our lives, right? We need that influence and we need
yeah,
that dynamic and that balance of those two energies, whether one is
That's right.
mostly masculine, one is mostly feminine, and all of those things, the nurturing, all of the stuff that comes with those things. And we are in a society where we might find ourselves where, you're separate from the other half of that, right? And I don't condone staying in a situation that's not healthy, that's for sure. But it's worse. It's worse for the kids, really. But the thing is, having both of those things available to the children is still something that
It's
needs to
very
happen,
important.
and they're going to seek it out somewhere. So what's going to happen is this child will grow up needing that father influence, and he's going to get it from a teacher or a
hmm,
coach or whatever, until he gets to an age where he has the ability to make the choice himself. And that's sad because he's missing out on the time he could have with his dad, who is a good person. Like, we all know you here, and we
yeah,
know that he's missing out of the things that he can benefit from having that relationship with you. At this point, though, right? Like, you have to stand back and go, let's do what's best for
right,
him, and let him come around. And then
yeah,
when you build those bonds, you build them strong, because he's going to see all the things that you did. But
uh
it's a process, and it's so sad that somebody has
yeah,
to go through that. And what's more sad is that you get a little taste of it and it gets taken away. That's not
right.
okay either.
Well,
So,
and what's sad most about it is I did halfway keep my guard up because I know her. I know her very well, and she brought him over the first time, and I invited her in for a cup of coffee. I thought maybe past is past. Why don't we just co-parent? I said to her, one time we were friends. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking just to be civil and co-parent this child. That's it. That's it. I don't want any more or any less. Just let's co-parent. And no response, nothing. And she won't even send me a form if he has school pictures. She'll say things like, "Oh, just call the school and get it on your own." I'm like, okay, whatever. But I mean, it got so bad years ago where I did actually go to a parent teacher conference in his elementary years, and I felt weird because I walked in, there was no other parents in the school at all. It was like it was over, and they had four teachers in the room with me. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Come to find out, she told the school I was diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. She diagnosed me just to do it on his IPE, I think it's called. There's like a
the
parent.
IEP, yeah.
Oh yeah,
So,
IEP.
IEP. Yep.
right.
Yep. And when I
And
read that, there was nothing I could do about it. Nothing.
well, I mean, the thing you do about it is say that's a lie. If they can't
Yeah.
ask for your medical records, that's number one. But
Yeah.
secondly, you have as many rights as she does as far as access to his information.
Right.
And if she doesn't cooperate with it, you are within your parental rights to, look at the school schedule, see when the pictures are, see when open house is, see when
Correct.
the functions are, if you want to insert yourself into those
Right.
areas. So with my ex, we never had the struggle with custody or anything. My kids were a little bit, I don't know how old your son is right now, but
He'd
he's
be
obviously not.
15 October 5th.
Right. But it started when he was younger. My kids were 11 and 13, so they were a little bit older, you
Yeah.
know. So, but my husband ran away, right? Like he said, my kids were angry. He cheated on
So
me. My
different
kids were
scenario.
angry.
Yeah.
So they made their own choices. I personally said, no, you have to still do what you have to do. You have to see your dad. You have to do these things. But he couldn't
You
handle,
encouraged the
I encouraged their
relationship,
relationship,
which is a legal thing.
but he couldn't handle their rejection.
Ah,
Now they're teenagers. I mean, obviously, teenagers are not easy to begin with. I mean, let's just
no,
face it.
they're not.
So he left and he moved back to California for a few years. And so, they visit him there, whatever, but it was always very strained. But I never withheld that. But on the other side, like I told him, I said, he's like, they don't want to be around me. Well, you are the adult.
Make it work.
When they have a play, I tell you they have a play. I don't care if they don't speak to you. You show up and you let them see that you are going to be there, no matter how they act, because that's what a parent does. And if you were home with them, that's what would be happening. And that's the way you should treat that. And so that should be the same across the board, no matter what. You don't change that based on the fact that you feel guilty. And so you can't handle their response to that. That's a him
Right.
problem. And like you said, so for her it's the same thing. It's a her problem. It's a maybe she's insecure, maybe she thinks he's going to want to move, maybe she thinks that
Yep.
you guys are going to have a better relationship than she has with her son. I don't know, but there's some insecurity there that makes her pull back and make excuses as to why she's doing that. But what it
Right.
hurts is not, it hurts you for
Well, yeah,
sure,
but not
but it
as
hurts
significantly
but it
as
hurts your
Kyle.
son the most. I mean, that's the one who it hurts because
Hurts
he's
the
at a
son the
formative
most.
age. Right.
I mean, it
Well,
really,
yep.
the only thing I have to say is that during the first part of when my parents were divorced, it was my mother who wanted it. There was no hanky panky going on, which of course everybody thought. But when it first happened, it was very good. I mean, it was at a point where my parents even would take us out together, and that made a difference. So if you have to, and interestingly enough, my husband comes from a divorced family in the 60s. And what my mother in law did was that she made sure that they still had their family unit. And I think that made a difference. No matter what. I mean, no matter what, this is all about the child.
Is
It's
that
not
it's called
about,
putting the kid first, right? What a
right. That is
concept.
called putting the child
What a
first.
concept.
Yeah, yeah, no, what a concept.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference. It made a difference for me until then when they started fighting about the almighty dollar.
Mm.
So,
Well, they got money. Like I was telling Deanna and yourself, my ex father in law is retired FBI. So before that movie Meet the Parents came out, I thought they made that movie based on my life, and it wasn't funny. It was nothing comical about it. It was, he, gave me the runaround and the talk about his daughter and are you going to be able to take care of her and blah blah blah. Did everything but hook the vintage lie detector machine up. But what I find interesting most about it is that both her parents are ill, and I don't wish that on them, despite the past. And she'll say things like he can't make his own decisions, but he can work and drive a car. But she's got him fulfilling responsibilities on taking care of her father. And I'm like, that I don't get. I grew up with a severely disabled brother. I've been around disabled children my whole life. I'm qualified for the job. Now, where I think a lot of the problems lie is I've had my past history of mental health issues, hospitalization, jail a couple times. So that works against me. Now I own that. I can't take that back. So, but when you give that sort of power to somebody that's already power happy, they're going to take it. And to Deborah's point, she made another point that teenagers are already difficult to begin with. And then when you throw this on top of it, he's got behavioral issues. According to them, he's got behavioral issues. And I don't see it. I just don't. But then
I
again,
didn't.
I'm not around him all day, every day. But I don't see it because I don't play into it. I treat him normal. I treat him like a normal child, and I do that on purpose. It's not healthy to make them more disabled than they are. It's just not. I mean, that's again, I'm not a medical expert, but I have been around these children, and I treat them like they're normal. When I drove school bus, they put Frankie on the school buses with the severely disabled kids because I'm just good with them, and I understand them. So I guess I'm qualified, but I'm not qualified according to her parents' standards. I don't have the money. I don't live in the ritzy neighborhood. I've had my issues and my troubles and things like that, but that shouldn't be a factor considering he's never been in any danger in my care. Now, most recently, I found out, and it wasn't that I pried it out of him. I don't do that. I don't put the kid in the middle. He openly said her most recent boyfriend beat her up in front of him to the point where I think he said he ran out of the house, maybe to one of the neighbors' houses. Now, don't quote me on that. I could be mistaken, but he talks really fast. But in any event, it happened. I mean, he's out of the picture now, this other guy, and he has a daughter with her. So it's probably phase 2 of her next project. She's got a daughter and a son and getting child support from both sides and making, $40 an hour as a nurse. So she feels better than me. Okay, you're better than me. Fine. I that stuff doesn't bother me. I just want my son to be happy, have fun, go to school, do what he's got to do, and be successful one day. I mean, I know he can do it, but having these issues with parents that want to withhold their children, and Deanna, the court system a little bit, just like Joanne, having your degree in our bachelor's in criminal, the courts don't do anything about it. All they do is hand you a piece of paper. If she fails to turn him over for visitation, you call the cops, and what do they say? Go to court. Got to go to court.
So, I mean, here's the thing. The
Yeah.
court's hands are really tied.
Yes, they
I
are.
mean, if Joanne's in the criminal side of it, she knows this. Their hands are tied to whatever extent that your agreement comes down to on paper. It is very difficult because they also are not going to endanger in any given situation that comes up between the two parents. But I will tell you that sticking to the court orders are really important in creating a track record of what you will or will not accept. So if there is a custody arrangement in place, you need to
There
stick
is.
to the right. So you need to stick to that arrangement, because if one side or the other concedes and says, "Okay, I'll let you keep him that weekend,"
Hmm.
or you're supposed to only have one weekend, but you get in 2 or 3 weekends, well, the court's going to
Yeah.
say, "Well, then there's not an issue, and we can increase it." Right? So you have to stick to the arrangement, both sides, depending on
Yeah.
where you stand. So I know somebody who's going through this right now because his wife went berserk and wound up in jail. And, and he didn't ask for custody, didn't go to court trying to get custody. They gave it to him.
Yeah.
They just, they
They can
just
do
gave
that.
him custody. And they said, because she did things to her son, like on his weekend, send him pictures that she's in Disney and saying, "I went to Disney without you because, you want to be with your dad. Fine." Like this.
Oh,
And so
not good.
she wasn't in Disney. They were fake pictures. She was not there. So
Mm.
she that when the court asked, did she do that? She admitted it. She was like, "Yeah, I did. I wanted
Mm.
him to be home with me." The court said, "Okay, you have custody." And they turned the custody over. So but the judge said, "If you don't stick to this arrangement, we're going to have a whole different issue." So he has to stick to that
Yeah.
arrangement exactly, because if he concedes on anything, then the judge is going to look at the custodial parent as allowing the child to be in danger,
Yeah.
right? Exposing that child to something that the courts have said it's not okay. So you have to stick to the arrangement. On the flip side, she shouldn't reject any weekends that she has. And that's the same thing I'm saying to you. If
Yeah.
you have a custody arrangement and you're supposed to be able to see your child, then you need to try to stick to that arrangement. If it's not happening, then you
Yeah.
need to do what you have to do to enforce that, because
Yeah.
otherwise it shows that you're not interested in the
Yeah.
court's eyes. They can't tell you, they don't know you, you know.
Well,
Right,
the
exactly.
judge did say the last time we were there, when and if he is ready to see his son, you will follow the current court order that I'm not going to vacate, and you will not give him a problem. If you do, you'll answer to me. When I said to her a week ago, why don't we just go back to the original parenting agreement? Her response was, I had that abolished. Like, how did you do that? I wasn't made aware. How do you do
How
that?
Pretty
could she
sure
do
she
that?
she
She
can't do
can't.
Yeah.
that without
She
going
didn't.
back to
No,
court. No.
Right.
that's right. And without the court informing you.
Correct. But that's how dirty
So,
she plays, and saying, and then, Kyle was ready to sleep over, and I said, "Oh, you already asleep over? I'm really excited." He goes, "Well, mom says I'm not ready." Like, what does that mean? Mom says you're not ready? You're gonna be fit. I mean, when I was 15, I was ready to drive. I could make my own decisions on it. On that teenager level, right versus wrong, and I want to go somewhere. I don't want to go somewhere. And she said, "I'm not ready." So
Well, another thing, and now I'm in Louisiana, and our laws
sure,
is just extraordinarily different
a little
from
more
just
laid
any other
back,
state.
maybe. Yeah.
No, no, they are very backwoods laws,
Really?
and
Wow. I would have thought the
we
opposite.
don't have we don't follow civil law here, right? We have the Napoleonic Code. We're the only state in the entire country
What
that
is
still
that?
uses the Napoleonic Code. It's just
Yeah.
it's not civil law, so our state laws are very different. Like in other
Gotcha.
words, anyway, it affects everything: contracts, houses, all of it. It's all different. But the thing is that you have that most states recognize a certain age where a kid can just kind of start deciding. Now, maybe given his medical history, or she's got something on that says that he's not capable, and that's why she keeps bringing that up. I can promise you she's saying that for this reason,
Yeah.
because usually around 13 or so, the court is going to say, if he wants to go to his dad's, you got to let him go to his dad's, because unless there's danger, there's no reason for him not to do that. But she's going to bring up, yeah, he's not old, because of his autism, he can't make those kind of sound decisions for himself, right?
And that's
So
where
she's
she is
going
a
to keep
she's going
you
to use it the
weaponizing.
excuse.
She's
Yes.
going to keep
Yep. You
weaponizing
got it.
whatever she can, because she's needing to maintain that control. So, but 15 is usually old enough where a kid is going to be able to go like, the judge can ask them directly, do you want to go see your dad? And the kid will be like, yeah. And then the judge is going to say, okay, good, go.
go.
Right. They're not going to
Well,
deny, but you have to go
yeah.
back to court for all of this. You have to go back to court for all of this. So
At
it's
least,
a
yeah, at
pain.
least file one petition, because the same judge would remember. She remembers me. And what the judge did say to her, she goes, "You have to learn how to nurture the relationship with him and his father, just as he is to nurture it for you." And you know what? I make it a point never to say a bad word about his mother in front of him ever. I always say the words to him, and I make it a point when I do see him and I let him go home. I say the words to him: "I will see you next time." I don't say Wednesday, Tuesday, whatever, because I don't know. I mean, he may be scheduled for Wednesday, but I don't set expectations. I just make it very vague and say, "I'll see you next time," because and I shouldn't have to do that. There is an agreement in place. She abolished it apparently. Whatever. I know she didn't, but what she wants is for me to quit again, and she didn't expect him to call me, which I know. So I wanted to bring this out because I know for a fact that I am not the sole person in this world that deals with this. It happens quite often, and most men give up. I mean, I gave up, and it wasn't in a malicious way. It was in a, I can't keep coming down here. This isn't healthy for anybody. And furthermore, I don't have the money to get an attorney. I don't have the money to drive down here. I'm losing work. And it got to the point where I just finally, I don't know, I stood up, the chair almost fell down, and I'm just like, okay, I quit, I'm done, because it was just, they wanted to do supervised visitations. And what happened, I'm a volunteer firefighter at the time. We, every Friday night, our fire department would play another fire department, and all the kids would go play in the playgrounds with the moms, and taken care of. He came home with a little bruise and a scratch, and a day and a half later, I had CPS at my door. They were allegations that there was a human bite mark on him, like a human. I mean, yeah, I took a chunk out of him, and he had a bruise. And she was saying that it's not safe for him to be around the fire department or around the guys. And I'm like, wouldn't that be like the safest spot for him? EMTs and firefighters and
Right. You'll
Very
you'll say
terrible. Very
you'll say it
terrible.
you'll say it's safe if your house is on fire though.
Right,
right,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Frankie, thank you for having me. I got to get going because I've got an emergency meeting this afternoon.
Okay,
So,
take it
Deanna, you're
easy.
terrific.
Oh,
Thank
thank you,
you so
Joanne.
much, and we will see you. All right. Bye bye.
Bye, Joanne. Thanks for your input. I'll speak with you later on the back channel. So, but yeah, Dana, getting back to the subject at hand. So what I'm trying to do now is try to what do I do now? Because I'm trying to figure out a way. Do I just kind of let it play out the way it has been for the last 5 years? He knows I love him. He's excited to come here. Should I just keep, if he texts me, just pretend everything's okay and play the game for the next couple years and let him start to develop the education that his mother is in fact doing this? Because I know he's smart enough to pick up on it.
Yeah, well, he will figure it out if he hasn't already figured out or started to. Frankie, it's up to you about how much of a fight you want to put up with
Yeah,
right now at his age. Because I don't know about you, but here, 17 and a half, and that's it. You're done. You know what I mean?
right,
So, and then he can do whatever he wants, and there's nothing she
right,
can really say about it. So,
exactly.
if you have a way of communicating with him and keeping the communication open, the first thing I would definitely do is make sure that he understands that you are there for him, whatever he
Hmm.
wants, whatever. You can have communication with him without her. She does not have to be involved in your communication
Yeah,
because he's 15 and he has his own phone. So
right. Which I know
that's
she reads, so I'm very
Does he
so
have
yeah. So
Discord?
what though?
Just to pick up on that.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, right.
I have
Using
teenage
certain.
boys, so and I'm a Boy Scout leader, so I'm around teenagers all the time. Discord, things like that, which many parents are not reading Discord. I don't read my kids' Discord. I'm assuming it's all good, but
yeah.
uh,
I'd have to teach him that, but no, that's true, and I could say this is our secret spot to talk. But
yeah, just as you can see, it's our time. This is our space together. You don't even hold
yeah,
secret because then that implies that other people aren't supposed to know about it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I'd be on the up and up and just be like, hey, I want to increase our communication. I realize you're getting older. I realize years where, you're going to want to be an adult and interaction with moms and dads are not as going to be high priority. So let me just reach out a little bit with you now and have more of a connection. This way you're not saying anything negative about her. So that can never come back on you for not being so supportive of his mom, right?
yeah, yep,
But
yep,
And you're
you're
also
putting in
not
his
saying you're
mind.
being sly, like you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. I
Right.
wouldn't put secret in there either. Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
You're instead saying, I love you, I care about you, I want involvement in some way, shape, or form. And that's what is the most important thing.
yeah,
Knowing your love and knowing your desire to be part of his life. Right. And
Right. And
doing
complete
so in a way that doesn't
acceptance.
alienate or scare him.
Hmm.
It's just my opinion, but that's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
Sorry, I'll be quiet again. Just
Well,
listening in.
I'm on the fence of, do I just file a petition, and just because I know the judge knows me down there based on this particular case, she would remember me in a heartbeat. So I'm like, and it's all online right now for the most part. Do I just shoot a petition over and just remind the judge, well, you did tell me, and well, here it is again. She won't stick to the basic parenting agreement that's in place now, every other weekend and Wednesdays, and the typical
Hmm.
um,
Well, and
visitation schedule.
one of the things that I would definitely do is look on there and see what's filed, and if she's filed anything that would abolish, quote unquote, your prior arrangement. Because honestly, on those type of arrangements, the way that works is anytime you want to make a change to an arrangement that's been set up legally, you have to file a petition to modify the arrangement. And
And
when you
both
file
parents
the
got to be
petition,
involved.
right, to modify the arrangement, they have to notify you, and then you get to answer that petition and say why that's not okay. And then if you can't agree, then it comes in front of a hearing so that we can get an agreement. Why should it change? Why does it need to change?
Yeah.
And she has to present something that makes it reasonable for that to change. The only thing I can think that could have possibly happened is if for some reason they couldn't deliver or serve you um, paperwork. And that still takes so many attempts and so many tries and so much search. I had to pay. I knew where my husband was, okay? I
Yeah.
knew where he was, and he wouldn't answer the door. I had to pay an extra $250
To serve
to
them.
to sheriffs to serve him, send them a picture of what he looked like. And my kids one day were like, "Oh, Dad's at this restaurant today." Blah blah blah. They didn't know they were telling me something, right? They were just like, "Oh, Dad's out drinking margaritas at this restaurant someday." And I said, "Okay, cool, great. Here's what he looks like. This is where he is." I sent it to the sheriff. It cost me an extra $250 to get him served. They are very serious about serving people. They don't just, "Oh, well, we couldn't serve him. Go ahead and do what she wants." You know what I mean? So,
They have to go back and find them and be consistent
right.
or
So I would be
persistent is the
really,
word.
right, surprised if she was able to abolish something. The only thing
Well,
that would, jail. Maybe if you were in jail, because you do give up a
yeah,
lot of rights while you're in
yeah,
jail.
yeah,
So if she had some proof of that at the time, maybe, I don't know. But the thing is, I would check that. If your records are
yeah,
public and you can see it, I would check that. And if she did manage to do something like that, that's when you file the petition and say, "Hey, I need to modify this because
yeah,
this was done without my consent and I didn't get the paperwork or whatever she claimed," right?
yeah, yeah.
So, I
Well, I
don't
can
know.
tell you here in New York State, any and all dialogue or transmission that I've received from the court just comes in the mail from the family court. It's
Mhm.
it's not served to me. I've never had anything served to me from the
No, but it's
family
probably
court.
certified, right?
Oh
They
no,
get they
no, it's
get
actually not. Nope,
no?
it just comes regular mail.
Really?
And yeah, she's
That's
known my
That's
insane.
address.
crazy.
Well,
Sorry.
her father's ex FBI. I mean, I'm certain he can find me if I was in China. Um, but
She ain't
no,
trying to
they've known.
find you if she doesn't want you to get served.
No, no, and the thing that bothers me the most about it is with how busy she is. She's a nurse taking care of work and finishing school, and her parents both being ill. One would think that she would want a break and let him go be with his father
Right.
because
It's insecurity. It is
yeah.
complete insecurity of you, Frankie.
And here I am going, and what do I do? Because she wants me to, I hate to use it, but go backwards, which I'm not going to do. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to be baited, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what's happening. I
Right.
can't be rude to her. I'm not rude to her. I won't be ever again. I just try to be calm. I breathe, and I understand that I have to be calm, collective, and cool for him in the event that you know these things happen, that I have a stable brain or stable mind, a stable environment, and a stable overall, health plan, I guess. Now,
Right.
they are very good at exploiting weaknesses too. He's got MS,
Disengage.
and yeah, that's what I've
Disengage.
done.
Disengage.
Yep,
You have to
yep.
disconnect from anything that feels like a personal attack because
Hmm.
the personal attacks are only being used for one reason and one reason only,
To
and
get a
they are
rise
being.
on me.
Mhm. And when you give them that, you're giving them exactly what they want. So,
The power.
right, you keep your power. You keep your
Because
power, right? It's
I'm going to
yours.
need it. Yeah.
Right, it's yours. So you do not have to engage whatever the topic or the mission or whatever you're trying to accomplish, that the end goal that you're trying to accomplish, that's the only thing you stay on topic with. And when she goes,
Well,
"Oh, but you have MS." Well, I'm just trying to make an arrangement to see my son.
That has nothing to
That's
do
what
with
we're
it, right?
talking about. That's what we're talking
Yep.
about. We're not talking about my MS. We're not talking about things that happened, 10 years ago or 8 years ago. Um, I just want to know in writing, here's what I'm asking for. I just went, like I said, I just went through this with my son because, he and his wife are separated, and behind his back, she decided to register the kids in a different school
Mm.
without his permission. And she's living with her mom. He's living in their childhood home that they've always known. As a matter of fact, it's my house. It's a house I built. So they've been in that house the whole time. They've been in the same school system the whole time. You don't get to change anything if you can't agree on changing. If you can't agree
Well,
on
yeah, that's just
changing
it.
and there's no harm happening to the kids, then they need to stay in what they are routine and consistent. You need to keep the stability as much as possible while other stuff is not stable around them. Now, they've done good with sharing custody and agreeing on that, but she did this without his permission. He had to spend a whole day undoing what she did,
Shh.
re-registering them. And when he reached out to her, I said, just, keep the thread of what you need to talk about when it comes to the kids and specifics. Put it in an email. Keep it in an email. Say, look, I don't want
Mhm.
to talk about us. I know that you want and I want what's best for the kids. I believe that wholeheartedly. I trust that. So since we're not in agreement, then nothing changes. And I need to know that you're going to bring them to school because how do I bring the
That
kids to
helps.
you? You know what I mean? And then are you going to bring them to the school that they're used to going to, that I went through all this work and re-registering them? So, you know, but you can't hold the kids as collateral for her to say
Yeah,
something. So you have to really make sure you're sticking to the subject at hand. She went
which
off.
is
Oh,
him.
you're
Yeah.
all high, right. You're all high and mighty. Oh, you're doing all this stuff now. Now you're going to finally take an interest in school. Don't respond to that. That's all
Mm-mm.
about her. That's all about her. It's not about
Yep.
you. You just say, okay, I don't want to talk about all of that. What I want to ask you is, are you going to bring them to school Monday morning? That's a
That's
simple
it.
Simple question. Don't put it in a text. Respond to the email and confirm so that I have something that I know I can trust. This protects you just as much as it protects me. We put it in writing. This is what we agreed on. Now we know we have it and it's good. Back to everything is kosher, right? But you have to do that, but you have to remove your emotion from it. And
Yeah.
you have to keep your power. And the way you keep your power is you respond, you don't react. It's easy to react to triggers
Good
and
point.
button pushing, and people who know you and know your buttons can be really
Yeah.
good and persistent and
Yeah.
incessantly pushing those buttons, right? Because they're working to in the old patterns, in the patterns that created the chaos that you got used to. But if you're going to break those patterns, you have to keep your power.
Yeah.
So you
And
just
you bring up a
respond.
great point. It's funny because if you would have asked me 5 years ago if I was sitting here today remaining calm, I would have been. I don't even know if I could have answered you. Probably not. But I diagnosed it very quickly. As soon as I got the first, I'm coming over tomorrow. And then, I texted her and said, "Hey, what time tomorrow am I picking him up?" And she goes, "I don't even know what you're talking about." I'm like, "He said he's coming over tomorrow." And she goes, "He can't make plans. He's autistic." I'm like, "Whoa." She said, he needs to communicate with me." I'm like, "Well, communicate with him. I'll get back to you." Well, she never got back to me. And then he
Mm-hmm.
texted me. I'm like, "You have
Mm-hmm.
to ask your mother." Like, I'm not going to give her that power back because I've worked hard to get that power back in my hands.
Right.
And I'm not going to regress because it does nobody good. It doesn't. And nobody wins. It's not a competition. It's about my son. It's about his happiness, his life, his health, and his well being. So what if I have a 1 bedroom apartment? If I have to slap a mattress on the floor in the living room, he can have the bedroom. I know how to make it work, I guess, but it's not up to
I
their.
mean, I have a bedroom set up here for my
Yeah,
grandkids. They don't even sleep in the bed; they sleep on the sofa. They want the big TV.
yeah,
I mean, come on,
yeah.
let's just get real.
That's
I mean,
it's a
that's not
roof. There's food.
right.
It's
Right.
heat. There's it's not. But according to her parents, she's got a house with rooms and a basement and a lot. So
So
they're
that's all
better than
right.
me. Yeah, they're
That's
better than me.
And that's why she is the domiciliary parent. But
Right.
there's no reason why you can't come and visit, just like you went if you went and stayed in a hotel. I
Yeah.
mean, it would be a one room hotel.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
you get to come, you get to visit, you get to have your space here, and we'll set it up however.
Yeah.
If you knew that that was a regular thing, I
I'd
guarantee
work
you
it
he
out.
would have some space, right, in your
Oh, he'd
place,
get his
right?
space.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I, I, I said to her, I said, listen, I just want what's best for him at this point. It's not about you or I, whatever. I just want to co-parent. And when I didn't get responses back, I finally said to her, I said, are you going to answer the question or what? And she goes, I'm busy and I don't like long conversations. I'm like, I just asked you a really short one sentence question. That's not a long question. But, she
so
responds when it's,
the next question just really needs to be, when am I going to see him? Or, hey, I'm free this weekend. I'd like to have Kyle come over. Will that work? Just something very concrete and
yeah,
not
yeah,
open ended, not open ended. Like, oh, well, so like everything's in her court. It might be in her court because he's with her, but you say, hey, this weekend I'm free. I have some plans that I'd like to, involve Kyle in, maybe watch movies, have a movie night, whatever. I'm off this weekend. I'd
right,
like to, spend some time with Kyle. I talked to Kyle and I don't think he has anything going on, but I want to make sure because I know that, maybe he doesn't always remember everything. So is this
correct.
weekend good? I'd like to come pick him up at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, she's at the point now where the couple times I did see him, she'll text me at 4 o'clock and say, "Can you pick him up at 4:30?" And I'm like, um, you couldn't have texted me this morning. Not
Well, I
that.
wouldn't even say any of that. I
Well,
would
no,
accommodate
I
it if
was
you
thinking
can.
that.
Right. I
Yeah,
would
yeah, of
accommodate
course.
it if you can. And if you can't, say, oh, dang, it'll
I'm
take me a
busy.
little bit more than 30 minutes to get there, but I
Yeah,
can get there at 5:30.
correct. No, no. When I say things, I say them to
Right.
myself. Like you couldn't have told me this
Right.
morning, and I did
Right.
cruise over
She
and I
could
got
have,
him.
of course. She could have told you
But
this morning. She just didn't.
you know, she knows I'm not working. I told her I'm not working. I'm available. I'd love to have him all the time, every day. Him and I have a blast. And just I think back to what you were saying and what Deborah was saying. It's just she's kind of stuck in her bubble of thought, and she might not even realize that she's doing it. She might not. She might think that what she's doing is in the wellness of or in the benefit of him. But what she doesn't understand is that eventually he's going to start rebelling against her because he knows I it's sad because I
She
don't want to
has,
say the wrong things.
yeah, well, she has her own triggers.
Correct.
And so, yes, she could very easily be acting from her own triggers in your relationship and her own concerns in your relationship.
And
She
and I
doesn't know
don't have
you
a
as
problem with that.
you, right? She doesn't know you as you now. She knows you as you then.
Correct.
And that's why she's acting like you as you then, right?
Correct.
And she's not interested in getting to know if there's been any improvement. And you don't have to prove that to her,
No, I don't.
right? All that has to happen is have the dialogue and make the arrangements and just stick to that. The more she sees that, the more she'll be able to come around if she's willing to come around. And if she's not, there's nothing you really can do about it one way or the other. I mean, really.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Well, let me say bye to Deborah real quick. She's got something she's got to do. Good luck, Deborah, with your interview or whatever you're doing. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit. We're at the top of the hour, anyways. Deanna, I'd love to continue this conversation. In fact, I'm just going to say now, even if you can't make it next week, I think I'm going to continue this conversation a little bit, do a little
mhm.
bit more digging and research, perhaps maybe make a couple phone calls down to the court because I do have some contact numbers and see if there's a chance I can get a copy of the current abolished parent agreement and
Or
see
the
what that
current not
says.
abolished agreement, just to make sure
Or
y'all are
current,
both on the same page, right? Whatever
correct,
the agreement is, yeah.
correct. And then I will use email and and keep an email dialogue, because then those can be CC'd to whoever, or log
So
guardians,
here's the
judges,
reason
whatever.
why I like email. Look, you can, you can present texts, right? You can. The
Hmm.
problem with texts is that people can delete stuff. So then you
Sure.
start having this, he said this, she said this. But
Hmm.
B, people talk over each other in texts. So what you said, then somebody says something, and then you're saying something, and then before you're finished saying this, somebody's responding again, and then your texts start getting jumbled. And unless
Hmm.
you link your reply to that person's specific comment, they can then come back and say, "I wasn't talking about this. I was talking about that.
And
This
judges
is
won't
not
even
what I
field it.
said." But if you put it in an email thread just stays very much in consecutive order. It's very chronological. Here's what
Hmm.
I said. Here's what she said. Here's what I said. Here's what she said. you know, and then there's
Yeah.
no misconstruing the intent behind somebody's words because they're replying to that email.
Yeah. And that
And that's
thread,
why
and
the
that's it.
email thread is a little bit more clear and concise. And I learned this from my attorney. And that's why
Hmm.
she said, yeah, you can text, but it's better to put it in an email because you can really discern intention better because of the way you reply back and forth through email.
Right.
So,
I agree. And
you
and
know,
that's what I'll start doing. I just got to figure out what of the 5 emails she uses, but I can figure
just
that
text her
out.
and ask
That's
her that, right?
Yeah.
Just say,
What's your
hey,
email address?
look, I pulled the court record. It looks like the custody arrangement is still in place.
Hmm.
And I really would like to be able to start seeing Kyle according to the custody arrangement. And I hope that you'd be agreeable to that. So I sent you an email to that effect. Could you please respond to the email? Or you
Gotcha.
can say, what's the best email? I sent it to this one or that's what I would do. I sent it to this email because that's the one I thought was best. Is this the best email? Because I'd like to, keep this in an email. It would just be
Correct.
cleaner.
Yeah. No,
And
I 100% agree with you there.
right. And that way, you're keeping a very good, clean communication. It's very clear what's happening, what you're doing. You're not being snarky about it. You're just being matter
Right.
of fact. Matter of fact. Treat it like
And
business.
that's and
business.
and that's all I've been trying to do here in the last few weeks, is treat it like business. We don't have to like each other, but we don't need to disrespect each other.
hmm
Don't need to patronize me. I'm well aware of his allergies and I mean, that kind of stuff is, in my opinion,
Every time
patronizing.
she does that, look, go look at the Kabbalah lessons. What a pleasure. Just Google that, right?
What's it called? I'm gonna look at it.
Kabbalah is the kind of
CA.
teachings. K. It's with a K,
Okay.
and it's called What a Pleasure.
So KABLLA.
Kabala.
Got it. Kapala lessons.
And
That's okay.
yeah,
Got it.
and it's called What a Pleasure. And just go look that up specifically. Whenever she does something like that, she's doing it for a reason, or maybe she really sincerely thinks you might not remember. But whatever the case, don't take offense. Go in your head, not out loud. What a pleasure. I say it with an
Yeah.
accent because that's how I was taught it. What a pleasure.
See.
You say that to yourself.
Yeah.
And then to her, you say, thanks for the reminder. I
Yeah.
got a
Thank
list
you.
that I have written down in my phone. So I have it written in my notes, but thanks for the reminder.
Yeah. Sure.
And
Play
say it
along.
sincerely with love and openness so that she receives it like that. And if she says it every time, I have that in my notes. Thanks for the reminder.
Right. And I'm so
Because,
laid back now, so I'm good for it. I'm good
mhm,
for it this time around. And that's
right.
what's more frustrating to me on an invisible
Right,
level.
because I
No one
think
can see
that's
it.
affecting you more than she's trying to affect you. She's
Hmm.
probably really like, I need you to remember this. And you know that you have it, but she doesn't know that you have it. So
Good point.
reassure her. Reassure her. There's nothing wrong
Mm,
with that.
Well, and that's why I wanted you up, because I'm getting the female perspective of it, right?
Well,
Because
and it's not
let
just a female perspective. It's
it's a
a
mother,
yeah, it's just a not involved in it. So I'm not emotionally attached to it perspective as
right?
well.
And yeah, and that means a lot to me. So I mean, again, thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Graciela. Thank you to Deborah and Joanne, for all your support. It meant the world to me. Because if I would have been up here on my own today, I would have been like, oh, and to have people that have experience in this field, most of all, is important to me. But I'm definitely going to continue this conversation next week. If you girls can make it, great. If not, then I understand. Life comes first. But this is something I'm gonna definitely continue on a little bit. And what I'll do between now and then is get some information, find some things out, do a little due diligence and research and find out what's in place still. How can I get a hold of it? And then, like you said, do the email thing, keep it business, and go from there. Because ultimately, you know, is it hurt me? Yeah, but I'm an adult. I'm calloused. I've been through worse hurt, pain, and I don't want this to affect him. So I have to stay strong. I'm his father. So I can't let him know it affects me. So I'm going to keep working on myself. First of all, self-care.
Well, you don't have to stay strong to the point of not allowing him to see how you feel. Because I think that's not
Yeah.
necessarily true either. I think he needs to know, look, son, I love you. I care about it and I want to spend time with you. I know this has been difficult and I haven't always done the right things because you know what? We make mistakes as adults just as much, if not more,
Yeah.
whatever.
No, you're
But
right.
here's the thing. This is what I want. I value our relationship. I want to build our relationship. It hurts when I can't be with you. And so I think you should know that. But I want to do it in a way that everybody is happy and on the same page that doesn't cause more hurt. And that's how
Correct.
I'm going to
That's a
do
great
it.
point. Great point.
It's
Great
okay
point.
for them to see that, right?
Yeah.
It's okay for them to see that. What's not okay is for you to lash out and call his mom's names because she's the one who's doing the hurting. That's
Yeah.
the
Which
part
I've
that's not
never
okay,
done. I take pride in
right?
saying that
You
too.
can
I've
take
never
you
done
can
that.
keep that from him, of course, right?
Hmm.
You can get off of this and go scream at your pillow or yell or whatever you have to do. You know what
Which
I
I've
mean?
done.
That stuff, right? That stuff he doesn't need to see, but it's
My
okay for
poor
him to know how you
pillows.
feel.
Yeah.
Your poor
My poor
pillows.
pillows.
Take it out on
Don't
the
even.
pillows.
Goddamn pillow. Pretend it's the New
Anyway.
England Patriots. But
Oh,
in
I'm
any
with you
event,
on that
Deanna,
one.
Deanna, thank you. Graciela, thanks for your support in the audience. Joanne's not here anymore, but she'll watch the replay. Thanks, and to Deborah, Vic, all four of you came through. I appreciate it, and I'll
Thanks
go
for
ahead and wrap it up now. Yeah, thank you. And until next time, everybody, if anybody has any input on this or any suggestions, go ahead and email me at info@frankiejexperience.com, or you can visit my website at frankiejexperience.com. And remember, don't take don't take nothing less than what you're worth. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do my due diligence, and I'm going to work on these things and keep myself positive. And I will be back next week to continue this conversation on parent alienation and who is it really hurting. And I'm going to get more information on it. And again, thank you everybody for your participation. And until next time, keep it safe, keep it real, keep it raw. I'm Frankie J, and I am out.